This relationship is constantly moving. It's expanding. It's contracting. It's sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it looks like that. Already starts to put in that face, that layer of surrendering to that movement of the relationships.
So one sort of subtopic here before at the end, I'm hoping that you'll share with us a short practice. Before that, I'm just curious about how you see connection in all this. You mentioned it briefly before, when you're speaking about how it is to be with the women you work with, for example, and that sort of connection. I wonder how you see surrender's importance sort of in being able to connect deeply with others.
Thank you for that question. I have so many examples from just the last few weeks of my life that are just popping up in how that is so, and how surrender is such a key element to relationships. And I think where I want to start with that is to say that surrender, like relationships also are like water, or in many ways like water, because they move. And when we take note of the fact that relationships move and need guidance, and sometimes they're a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slow, but they are constantly moving. They are not in one place. That in itself, that knowing already, like for me, like just lands in the body, right? This relationship is constantly moving. It's expanding. It's contracting. It's sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it looks like that. Already starts to put in that face, that layer of surrendering to that movement of the relationships, and those connections that are there. And that for me is like the first piece, maybe even the foundation of like an understanding that goes much deeper than just the mind, but also the body. And then comes the element of, and so what do I want to do about it? How do I want to show up in that connection with other beings, knowing that this is constantly moving? To me, that shows up as being more authentic and vulnerable in what it is that how I'm showing up and how I'm processing things and what's happening in my life. And I mean that with a discernment of what the context that I'm in, but in all relationships in my life. And then or with being open to what others are. What waters are they swimming in at that point in time? It's like seeing our two streams really coming together, crossing paths, and then moving along and flowing as water together. And I really put that vision into my mind, which, sometimes that one stream is coming in fast, while the other is a little bit, just had a little bit of a waterfall, not coming from a big waterfall. And one thing that maybe is less spoken about in our kind of relational pieces is also when those streams go apart. When also surrendering to the change that takes place in our lives that moves us away from that relationship at that point in time. And surrendering to an end of a cycle or an end of a relationship, and be that in the physical form of somebody passing, And be that in a friendship where we need to go our own ways so that we can grow as beings. Be that in work relationships and project relationships. Be that even in the parent to child relationship, where those relationships shift and change. And actually, that stream may be ready for it to go into the river, and I've got to let him. And surrendering to those changes that take place in the relationships as well.
That is so beautiful and so helpful. I'm definitely going to take that with me. It's not even just a visual. It's like the whole feeling of it, the feel and the visual of it as water and relationships and change is just really helpful. So thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sonja. I'm just noticing you're also dressed in blue and has been very inspired by the water element.
I know, and I didn't even know you were going to use that metaphor, but I did wear my blue. So we'll end with the practice you're going to share with us. Before we do that, if there's anything you want to add, and I'm going to put it in the notes too, but did you want to tell us maybe the fastest, easiest way to find you?
Fastest and easy way is Anna @ at withintention.studio. That's my email address. Easiest to get me to. And also With Intention Studio at Instagram. With Intention Studio as is website. And yeah, just looking forward to being connected with others and sharing my writing and podcasting and all other things that I do.
Yeah, you have some virtual. I think you have some virtual embodiment classes as well. Is that true?
I do.
Yes,
I have movement practices. Yes. Actually, quite a bit still is virtual. Slowly moving into more in person, but those are coming in the second part of the year mostly, and it will be in Poland, probably in Portugal as well, and Switzerland. Those are kind of my 3 locations. And virtual kind of spaces that I hold are movement practices which incorporate the 5 rhythms technique or are influenced by the 5 rhythms and many other things that I've done along the way. And then I hold intimate groups for women, and that I would just appreciate a direct message to me if you'd like to find out more.
Thank you. All right. Are you ready to share the practice with us?
Give me a moment. I'm gonna.
Yes. Let's take a quick breath here and get grounded.
So I'm going to share a practice that I really feel like I need after this conversation. And I invite you, wherever you are, if you are currently in movement, then click pause and come back to this practice. And when you do, find a comfortable seated position, letting your feet fall onto the ground beneath you. Notice your bottom on the seat, maybe your back, whether it's leaning. Let it just make its way a little bit forward and straight. Notice the weight of your head on your neck, letting your shoulders maybe come up just a little bit so that you can bring them back down, and notice how much further down they come. Lengthening your neck. Bring a little bit of attention to your breath and notice where that is. How is it moving in and out of your body? Constantly coming in and fueling you and releasing whatever's not necessary. A beautiful cycle that just is part of our living body. And what I'll guide us through is a peripheral vision exercise, which is great for just noticing where we go into looking really concretely focused on one part, and when we can come out and look at the wider picture and the horizon. So I invite you to bring your hands up to your eyes and create circles with your eyes where you have like binoculars. You know what I mean? As close as you can. And tighten them so that you barely can see. But just about. And just notice, what does that feel like to have such close vision? Notice your hands. Maybe really take a look at the wall that is being created by your hands. Notice what happens to the rest of your body with this closed in vision. And with the next breath, we're going to let that open up just a little bit so you can see a little bit more. And again, do a screen of looking at the side of your hands. First your one side, then out to the other. And notice what happens in your body as you just slightly expanded what you can see. With the next breath, we're going to widen that a little bit more. And again, seeing the structure that your hands create that close off the sides of your vision and make it very precise as to where you cannot see. And again, a little bit wider. And as we've done before, noticing the sides of your hands. Notice what happens in your body as this shifts. Is there any change in the way that you're breathing? Is there a comfort or discomfort? What happens in your chest? And again, a little bit wider. And we're looking at the sides of our hands, the structure that they create for us to see a little bit more. And then again, a little bit wider. Notice your hands. Notice what you're able to see now and what happens in your body. And with the next breath, a little bit wider. And again, paying attention to the structure, the frame really that your hands continue to create around you for your vision. And what happens. And again, a little bit wider, opening that up. And just notice what happens with your breath, with your chest, any other areas of your body that might have a say about this. And a little bit wider. Continuously following that frame and seeing around it. And let's take that one last widening. And now notice the widening of your vision. And we do this practice to be able to differentiate between the focused vision and the wide perspective. And can we move in and out from that? And I invite us to practice particularly when we think of an embodied surrender, so that we give ourselves the knowing of when am I directly looking at something and maybe too deeply and needing to focus out, versus when I'm looking out into the wider perspective and when do I need to zoom in to be able to discern and really feel into what it is that I need and how do I actively surrender. to what is. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That really felt so full circle in terms of, bringing in those pieces. Like sometimes we try to do that mentally, but bringing the body into that it was such an amazing experience. I experienced a lot. So I'm definitely going to start practicing that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you so much for being here and speaking with me today.
Sonja. It's so good.